Namo Bhagavate Vasudevaya. Om Namo Bhagavate Vasudevaya. Om Namo Bhagavate Vasudevaya. Srimad Bhagavad Gita ki jai.
Jai.
Jai Maharaj ki jai. So I have tried to summarize the Bhagavad Gita, the chapters 1 to 6. So my apologies if certain things goes wrong. And I'm sure Prabhu will be helping me.
I'm sure you're not going to need any help.
Oh, technical issues. There it is. So the first chapter, observing the armies and the battlefield of Kurukshetra. The two armies of the Pandavas and the Kauravas stand facing each other on the battlefield of Kurukshetra. Many signs indicate victory for the Pandavas. Dhritarashtra, the Pandavas' uncle and the Kauravas' father, doubts the possibility of his son's victory and asks Sanjay, his secretary, to describe the scene on the battlefield. Arjuna, the mighty warrior, one of the 5 Pandav brothers, sees his intimate relatives, teachers, friends in both armies ready to fight and sacrifice their lives. He undergoes a crisis just before the fight. Overcome by grief and pity, he fails in strength. His mind becomes bewildered. Arjuna submits before Krishna many noble moral reasons why he wishes not to fight. The reasons were incurring sin, destroying family and its tradition. Arjuna then casts aside his weapons and he gives up his determination to fight. Arjuna's reluctance to fight indicates his kind heart. This shows that he is a person fit to receive transcendental knowledge. Sorry, there seems to be a problem with the PowerPoint. Okay, so this was chapter 1. Any comment or anyone want to add something?
Yes, Mataji, just one thing on the last sentence, that reluctance to fight indicates his kind heart. This shows that he's a person fit to receive transcendental knowledge. So I think that implies that to receive the transcendental knowledge, you need to have a kind, soft heart. Somebody who has got a firm heart, or somebody who's bit not cruel, but very rigid in his attitude, I don't think he's fit to receive the transcendental knowledge. Is that correct?
Difficult to answer. This is what I've got from different devotees' point of view from the internet. So
I think I've read this before. I'm not saying that you are wrong, but I'm saying that this is what it implies, because
yes,
it does indicate that you need a kind, soft heart to receive the transcendental knowledge. It is correct, and I was just confirming my views. Yeah.
Maybe Prabhuji can help us in this.
Yeah, no, for sure. For sure, kind-heartedness has to be there. Compassion for others. If it's not there, then how can we ever receive transcendent? If we're not compassionate, daya. If there's no daya, ahimsa. If there's no ahimsa parodharma, how will we ever advance in spiritual life? So yes, Naniben,
yes,
that kind-heartedness is there. But in his case, yes, he definitely had a kind of, but I think he was also, there was a weakness of heart as well, because he saw on the other side, his grandfather, Bhishma, and Krishna took him right in front of his greatest weakness, which was his grandfather, because his grandfather he loved so much. And also he knew his grandfather is, there's nobody who can actually defeat his grandfather. So there was some sort of weakness of heart. How are we going to fight, Krishna? You're not going to take any weapons. So that's fine. How are we going to defeat these guys? And you're not going to fight. You got your army on the other side who's going to fight. This was unspoken, but essentially in his message, in his speech in the first chapter, he's showing compassion for the other side, but there's also weakness of heart. And this is what Krishna, right throughout the Gita, then tells him, you have to do your duty. Even if you lose, it doesn't matter. Arjun, pick up the weapon and fight, So,
Hare Krishna.
Yeah.
My understanding is that obviously Krishna put Arjun in a test to see how wavering will his mind be. Even if he put near Bhishma there, who he was the grandfather, his favorite grandson there, but it was a test in itself whether Arjun will say, well, this is it. I'm not going to fight because of my grandfather and all that. So I feel that the testing started here, how Arjun will carry on.
yeah, correct. It was a test. Is that okay, Naniben? Does that make sense?
Yeah, that's fine. That's fine. It was understood that he had compassion, but he was sort of little bit of a weakness as well, and a weakness of heart. Yeah.
Thank you. Okay, so Karuna, are you happy with the answers?
Yes, Prabhu. Okay, chapter 2, contents of the Gita summarized. Krishna does not sympathize with Arjuna's arguments. Rather, he reminds Arjuna that his duty is to fight and orders him to overcome his weakness of heart. Arjuna is torn between his aversion to killing his relatives and Krishna's desire that he should fight. Aggrieved and confused, Arjuna asks Krishna for guidance and becomes his disciple. Krishna begins his teachings to Arjuna by explaining the fundamental distinction between the temporary material body and the eternal spiritual soul. The Lord explains the process of transmigration, the nature of selfless service to the Supreme, and the characteristics of a self-realized person. Krishna takes up the role of Arjuna's spiritual master and teaches him that the soul is eternal and cannot be killed. Dying in battle promotes a fighter to the heavenly planets. So Arjuna should rejoice that those persons he is about to kill will achieve superior birth. A person is eternally an individual. Only his body perishes, thus there is nothing to lament. Arjuna's decision not to fight is based on his desire to enjoy life with his relatives, even at the cost of wisdom and duty. Such a mentality keeps one bound to the material world. Krishna advises Arjuna to engage in Buddhi Yoga or Bhakti Yoga, work without attachment to the results. By fighting in this way, Arjuna will free himself from the cycle of birth and death and become eligible to enter the kingdom of God. So I've got from the purport by Srila Prabhupada in chapter 2, text 39. Here Srila Prabhupada explains, Sankhya means analytical description of the body and the soul. Lord Krishna made an analytical description of the soul just to bring Arjuna to the point of Buddhi Yoga or Bhakti Yoga. Therefore, Lord Krishna's Sankhya and Lord Kapil's Sankhya, as described in the Bhagavatam, are one and the same. They are all Bhakti Yoga. Lord Krishna said, therefore, that only the less intelligent class of men make a distinction between Sankhya Yoga and Bhakti Yoga. Sankhya Yoga Pritag Bala Pravadanti Na Pandita. Of course, atheistic Sankhya Yoga has nothing to do with Bhakti Yoga. Yet the unintelligent claim of the atheistic Sankhya Yoga is referred to in the Bhagavad Gita. So Srila Prabhupada continues in the purport, that one should understand Buddhi Yoga means to work in Krishna consciousness in the full bliss and knowledge of devotional service. And in the end, you will see in red, there is much difference between work in Krishna consciousness and work for fruitive results, especially in the matter of sense gratification for achieving results in terms of family and material happiness. Buddhi Yoga is therefore the transcendental quality of the work that we perform. So this is chapter 2. Any comments? Any questions?
Yes, there was this very famous verse by Arjun saying that because he was determined not to fight, but then he also was two-minded because he knew he was in the middle of the battlefield with armies situated against each other. So he at that time surrendered to Krishna, saying, I really don't know what to do. I now accept you as my spiritual master, and you please guide me what to do now. So up to that point, Krishna hadn't spoken much, because until, and it's a similar situation for us. If we have our own plans, we often tell Krishna, do this because I know best. I know my problem. I know how to fix it. Please fix it. So Krishna won't talk to us. Fine. You know the problem. You know the solution. Fine.
You do it.
Yeah, sort it out. What's the problem? But as soon as we turn to Krishna and say to Krishna, okay, my dear Lord, I'm in a fix. I really don't know what I'm doing. Please guide me. That's when spiritual life begins. And that's
with the spiritual master.
Yeah, with the spiritual master as well. Same thing. So then Krishna immediately, what did he do? He didn't console Arjun. Don't worry, you can, we are strong. We can beat them up. No problem. But he said, no, don't you understand? We've always existed. There's never been a time when I know this king, no, you have never existed. You've always existed, and you'll continue to exist. So immediately Krishna puts Arjun on the spiritual platform, this platform of the soul. And this is a real spiritual guide who will take you from the material platform to the spiritual platform.
Elevate your consciousness.
Elevate the consciousness. Like Guru Maharaj, he never beat about the bush. If something had to be said, he would say it as it was, without worrying about, the context of it. He would just give the Krishna consciousness as it is, which is exactly what Krishna did to Arjun, which is extraordinary, which is really good. So then he takes him onto the spiritual platform, and then this describing, as you said very nicely, what is duty, what needs to be done. And then Arjun asked, okay, somebody who does his duty, what does he look like? How does he walk? How does he talk? And then Krishna spends 18 verses describing the characteristics of a devotee. It's very nice. That's all I wanted to add. Karuna?
Okay, Prabhu, thank you.
Thank you.
Chapter 3, Karma Yoga. Arjuna is still confused. He thinks that Buddhi Yoga, Bhakti Yoga means that one should retire from active life and practice penance and austerities. But Krishna says, a quote, no, fight, but do it in a spirit of renunciation and offer all the results to the Supreme. This is the best purification. By working without attachment, one attains the Supreme. Performing sacrifices for the pleasure of the Lord guarantees material prosperity and freedom from sinful reactions. Even a self-realized person never gives up his duty. He acts for the sake of educating others. Arjuna then asks the Lord what is that causes one to engage in sinful acts. Krishna answers that it is lust which induces one to sin. This lust bewilders one and entangles one in the material world. Lust presents itself in the senses, mind, and intelligence, but it can be counteracted by self-control. Everyone must engage in some sort of activity in this material world, but actions can either bind one to this world or liberate one from it. By acting for the pleasure of the Supreme, without selfish motives, one can be liberated from the law of karma, action and reaction, and attain transcendental knowledge of the self and the Supreme. So that was chapter 3.
Good summary.
Now, Prabhuji, yeah, Karma Yoga can be interpreted as doing karmic activities, but with Krishna consciousness, isn't it?
It's perhaps more the other way around, that you do your duty without attachment to the fruits, but perhaps not conscious of Krishna. Perhaps Krishna may not enter into the equation, but karma yoga is does one's work as a sense of duty, but is not necessarily attached to the fruits of that labor. That's in essence karma yoga. As soon as you bring Krishna into the picture, that karma yoga starts to become bhakti yoga.
Okay. So without attachment, it can happen even without being Krishna conscious, is it?
Yeah, for sure. One who is in the mode of goodness, like the professors, the teachers. Teachers don't get paid much. They don't do their job for money. Right? They don't get paid that much, but they do their job. We go to so many schools and we see these teachers, especially in the primary schools. Their pay is minuscule, but they're there. Why? They have a love for teaching. They're doing they know how to teach. They love to teach. They love children, so they do their duty. And of course, I'm not saying all of them are not attached to their fruits, but if they were attached to money, they would do something else, because teaching doesn't pay. So in sense, like the professors, they teach, they're happy in themselves just teaching. Whether they get, obviously they get paid, but they're not overly attached to money. So they are, you could almost argue that they are on the path of karma yoga, but no realization of Krishna, no realization of Krishna. So you don't have to have realization of Krishna to be a karma yogi.
Okay. Yeah, that's very good example of a teacher, professor, people who are working here, isn't it? Those who don't have, they're not into Krishna consciousness, they can still be detached.
Yes.
Krishna. Oh, that's a clear point. Thank you, Prabhuji.
Yeah, thank you.
Bit like Madhusudan.
Maybe
Come back to
Madhusudan.
that.
That's right.
Yeah,
That's right.
Mohan.
That's right. That's correct. That's correct.
Yeah.
Absolutely. And you can see he's in the mode of goodness. You know, he's gentle. He's caring and kind. You know, you can see in his nature is like
Patient as well.
patient. Yeah, that's right.
Karuna, it's coming from you. I thought of him, but I said I can't say about my husband.
That's right. That's right. You can't say it, but it's good when others observe it. Yeah.
When he listens to the recording, he'll be chuffed about it, I'm sure. Thank you.
But he's always been amazing, actually. I remember him when he came and did a yagya in South London 30 odd years ago.
Yeah, his nature's always been like that.
Mm.
Thank you.
Yeah, he's a rare person. Rare person. Mm. Okay.
Okay.
Yeah, it's good.
I don't know what's happening with the PowerPoint. It's not working.
That's okay. Don't worry. Don't worry. And as you're waiting for it to go down, there's a really amazing verse in this chapter, chapter 3, text number 9 says, Yagna tat karmano nayate. It basically says work must be performed for the satisfaction of Vishnu. Otherwise, work will bind us to this world. So that's a really powerful verse. Okay, Karun.
Okay, Prabhu, thank you. Chapter 4, Transcendental Knowledge. The science of Bhagavad Gita was first spoken by Krishna to Yashwan, the sun god. Yashwan taught the science to his descendants, who taught it to humanity. This system of transmitting knowledge is called disciplic succession. The Lord explains the necessity of approaching a guru, self-realized teacher. Whenever and wherever there is a decline in religion and a rise of irreligion, Krishna appears in his original transcendental form, untouched by material nature. One who understands the transcendental nature of the Lord attains the Lord's eternal abode at the time of death. Everyone surrenders to Krishna directly or indirectly, and Krishna reciprocates according to one's surrender. Krishna created a system called Varnashram with divisions of social and spiritual life to engage people according to their psychophysical natures. By sacrificing the results of work to the Supreme, people gradually rise to the platform of transcendental knowledge. Ignorant and faithless people who doubt the revealed knowledge of the scriptures can never be happy, nor attain God consciousness. So in verse 7, the purport by Srila Prabhupada, Srila Prabhupada said, the prime Swartha Gati, or goal of self-interest, is to reach Vishnu. The whole institution of Varna and Ashram is designed to help us reach this goal of life. A householder can also reach this destination by regulated service in Krishna consciousness. For self-realization, one can live a controlled life as prescribed in the Shastras and continue carrying out his business without attachment. In that way, make progress. A sincere person who follows this method is far better situated than the false pretender who adopts show-battle spiritualism to cheat the innocent public. Transcendental knowledge, or the spiritual knowledge of the soul of God and their relationship, is both purifying and liberating. Such knowledge is the fruit of selfless devotional action, Karma Yoga. So that was chapter 4. Any comments?
It's a nice summary again. Very good. And this chapter again is famous for that amazing verse where Krishna says, Tadvidi panipatena. He says, one must approach a spiritual master and serve him and inquire from him submissively. Because he has seen the truth, he can guide. So that's why the guru's role is so important. And we can take comfort that Srila Prabhupada, through his books, is giving us a lot of guidance. So, anybody else like to comment or put any questions? Chapter 4. Oh yes, that's right. Jayanti just reminded me. Also got Yada Yada Dharmasya. Very famous verse. Everybody knows that from this Hindu community, where Krishna says, I appear to re-establish religion and destroy irreligion. But actually he doesn't come for that purpose. He says it,
External.
Yeah, he says it. That's the external reason why he comes. But he can send anybody to do that. The real reason he comes. What's the real reason he comes?
He comes for his devotees.
Hmm.
And
Yes.
establish the Dharma.
That is second. Is that second reason? The main thing is he comes for his devotees, to protect his devotees.
More
Bad
than
over
that.
evil. Bad over evil.
Prabhuji, the first one is to protect his devotees, second one is to kill miscreants, and third one is to establish dharma.
Wow.
Oh,
Well done,
well
Riyansh.
done.
But Riyansh, he can send anybody to do that. He can send Hanuman to do that, right? He can send Arjun. He can send just his chakra. But why does he really come? What's the real reason for him coming? What's the internal reason? The reason that's hidden. It's not so hidden.
For
Because
devotees' pleasure.
what's the verse? What's 4:9? Janma.
Karma chame
Dhamma
devya.
karma chame divyam. Evam
Janma karma
vidveti
chame
chame
divyam evam
divyam.
yoveti tatvatat prakrati Raiti maveti sa Arjuna.
Meaning,
For his transcendental form.
Meaning his birth and past tense are always transcendental.
Yeah, Janma karma. So one who understands my birth and my activities, that person, when he leaves this world, he never comes back to it. This is the main reason why he comes. He wants us back.
it comes to show us his activities, what his leelas are on this earth.
His sweetness.
So that we can fall in love with him and establish our relationship with him again.
Yeah. Yada anybody can do, right? You can just say Nashinga, sort everybody out. But to show his sweetness, he has to come himself. He can't send anybody. He can't send Ram. Ram is very formal, right? You can't establish a loving, well, you can, but a very close relation. But with Krishna, you can establish a very close, loving relationship with him. Okay.
Hare Krishna, Prabhuji. In chapter 4 also,
Yes.
there is a verse 24 about Brahmarpanam Brahmahavihi. That is the other important one before eating any food or putting anything in your mouth. We are encouraged to remember that shloka.
Yes, well done, Nutanji. Yes, absolutely. Our Guru Maharaj used to chant that sloka every time before taking prasad. You're absolutely spot on.
Yeah.
And do you do that?
I try to when I remember, but I've been asked to put it on my fridge and everywhere in my kitchen. So I will be honest. But I just suddenly remembered. I thought, oh, chapter 424. I just remember it as chapter 424. So I thought I must intervene.
Please, because this, when you contribute like this, what it does, it leaves an impression on the mind of everybody in this call. So it's very nice when you contribute. So thank you so much. Very nice.
Hare Krishna. What was the first one? This was chapter 424, and the other one was? Why did he come?
Oh, 449. Yeah, 49.
Chapter 4?
Yeah.
49.
Yeah.
Okay. Thank you, Hare Krishna.
Thank you. Very good.
I'll share the notes, Aruna.
For sure, I might be calling you.
Okay, so thank you to chapter 5, Karma Yoga, Action in Krishna Consciousness. Arjun is still confused about what is better, renunciation of work or work in devotion. Krishna explains that the devotional service is better. Since everything belongs to Krishna, nothing is one's own to renounce. Thus, whatever one possesses, one should use in Krishna's service. The person working in such consciousness is renounced. This process, called Karma Yoga, helps one escape the result of fruitive action, entanglement in rebirth. One who works in devotion with his mind and senses controlled is in divine consciousness. Although his senses are engaged with sense objects, he is aloof, situated in peace and happiness, outwardly performing all actions, but inwardly renouncing their fruits. The wise man, purified by the fire of transcendental knowledge, attains peace, detachment, forbearance, spiritual vision, and bliss. So this is chapter 5. Any comments?
So this and chapter 3 are quite similar because they talk about working in the mood of renunciation. But this chapter is a little bit distinguished because it's working in the mood of devotion. So you're not just renouncing the fruits, but you're actually working in the mood. One who works in devotion with his mind is in divine consciousness. So this is where, if you like, it starts venturing into the field of Bhakti Yoga. So Karma Yoga is not far from Bhakti Yoga, except Krishna is not included in Karma Yoga necessarily. But as soon as you include Krishna, then it becomes Karma Yoga, action in Krishna consciousness. So the consciousness is the work you're doing, you're giving it to the results, you're giving it to Krishna. Fantastic. But still, it's not full Bhakti Yoga. Why? Because your mind and your intelligence may not be so engaged in Krishna consciousness. That's what makes it difference between Karma Yoga, action in Krishna consciousness, and Bhakti Yoga. Bhakti Yoga means you're not just working for Krishna, you're not just working and giving your fruits to Krishna, but you're working for Krishna, you're thinking about Krishna, your intelligence is used for the service. Everything of your life is just focused on Krishna. You're living in this world, fine, but inwardly you're just focused on Krishna. So that's the difference between Bhakti Yoga and Karma Yoga, action in Krishna consciousness.
So Prabhuji, in chapter 5, verse 17, Tad buddhayas tadatmanas, when one's intelligence, mind, faith, and rest are all fixed in the Supreme, then one becomes fully cleansed of misgivings through complete knowledge and thus proceeds straight on the path of liberation. That one is beautiful.
There's another, that is really good. There's another one where Krishna says the learned sage sees all beings equally. By virtue of his knowledge, he sees a dog eater, a dog. He sees elephant, a Brahman, all with equal vision. What is that verse? Do you remember that one? 5. How's it go? I've forgotten it. Anybody remember how that verse goes? Riyan? Well done.
Well done, Riyansh.
He's the man.
It's amazing.
He's the encyclopedia.
Oh.
And also this chapter it's got the peace formula, which is 5:29, the last verse. Do you remember that? Well done, Riyaj. Amazing boy. Yeah. And that's a really, it basically saying, if you realize Krishna is the benefactor of everything we do, and he is the ultimate, there's 3 aspects to that verse. Do you remember what that is, Riyaj? I've forgotten it. There's 3 aspects to it. If we remember those, we'll always be peaceful. So 529. Maybe we can just look at it in our own time. But there's three aspects to that. If we fall into those three categories, then we'll be at peace with this world. That's the peace formula. So Karuna, it's 20 past. Do you want to do one more, or you can carry on to more? Oh, this is number 6 anyway. Go for it. Go for it.
Chapter 6, Dhyana Yoga. The process of mystic yoga entails cessation of material activities. Yet the true mystic is not he who performs no duty. A real yogi works according to duty without attachment to results or a desire for sense gratification. Real yoga entails meeting the Supreme Soul within the heart and following his dictation. This is achieved with the help of a controlled mind. Through knowledge and realization, one becomes unaffected by the dualities of material existence, heat and cold, honor and dishonesty. By regulation of eating, sleeping, work, and recreation, the yogi gains control over his body, mind, and activities and becomes steady in his meditation on the transcendent self. Ultimately, he achieves samadhi, characterized by the ability to relish transcendental pleasure through transcendental sense. The highest yogi is he who always thinks of Krishna, the Supreme Soul. So I've got the purport by Srila Prabhupada, which is very interesting, in text 47. From the beginning of Karma Yoga to the end of Bhakti Yoga is a long way to self-realization. Karma Yoga, without fruity results, is the beginning of this path. When Karma Yoga increases in knowledge and renunciation, the stage is called Jnana Yoga. When Jnana Yoga increases in meditation on the Super Soul by different physical processes and the mind is on him, it is called Ashtanga Yoga. And when one surpasses the Ashtanga Yoga and comes to the point of the Supreme Personality of Godhead, Krishna, it is called Bhakti Yoga, the culmination. Actually, Bhakti Yoga is the ultimate goal. To analyze Bhakti Yoga minutely, one has to understand these other yogas. The yogi who is progressive is therefore on the true path of eternal good fortune. One who sticks to a particular point and does not make further progress is called by that particular name: Karma Yogi, Jnana Yogi, or Dhyana Yogi, Raja Yogi, Hatha Yogi, etc. If one is fortunate enough to come to the point of Bhakti Yoga, it is to be understood that he has surpassed all other yogas. Therefore, to become Krishna conscious is the highest stage of yoga. Just as when we speak of Himalayan, we refer to the world's highest mountains, of which the highest peak, Mount Everest, is considered to be the culmination. So that's all for chapter 6. Any comments?
Thank you, Karuna. Very well done. Very well summarized, rather. Thank you.
Yeah, it's good. Very good. And Karuna, I was just thinking, actually, Jayanti suggested after every chapter on Saturday,
Yes.
we could do a summary of each chapter. Maybe you and Chitra, between you, you're welcome to
Use this.
Yeah, use this if you like, and
Okay.
summarize. Yeah, if you want to.
Okay, Prabhu, can be done.
It's always good to just do a short summary of what we are doing.
Okay, Prabhu.
Great. And okay. Yeah, this chapter is amazing because it tells, I mean, I use this chapter a lot in schools because of where Krishna explains about the mind can be your best friend if it's controlled, or your worst enemy if it's uncontrolled. And how Krishna shows Arjuna that, yes, you want to go to the forest, but is your mind up to it? Because this is what you have to do. This is Dhyana Yoga. This is what the yogis do. Can you do this? Sit looking at the tip of your nose for months on end, sitting on a deer skin with crossed legs. Are you going to do it? So then Arjuna says, no, I can't do it. I can't control. What you've explained to me is impossible. It's easier for me to control the wind. So then Krishna explains to him, no, actually, yeah, you're right. It is undoubtedly difficult. But by two things, one can control the mind. Does anybody remember what those two things are? What are the two things that Krishna says to Arjuna, how to control the mind?
By practice and by
Yep.
detachment.
Very good, Naliben. Excellent, excellent. Yes, detachment and practice. Well done. Detachment means basically don't worry too much about what's going on around you. Focus on the Lord. And detachment and practice. Practice, the mind will go. Keep bringing it back.
Attach yourself to Krishna. That's how you get detached.
True. True.
Haribol?
Very good. Yes, Kamakshi.
Yes, I use that phrase is mind your enemy and mind is your friend. How you make it to it. Because in my yoga classes, sometimes ladies who come to yoga, they're probably doing what they're doing, but their mind is either in the shopping list or going there. So I always say, train your mind as your friend and make sure that you do what you want to. Mind is, in Gujarati, we say man chanchal. So it will just be wandering around here, there, and everywhere.
Yeah. Chanchal. That's exactly what. That's what Arjun says to Krishna. Chanchalam hi mana Krishna.
That's right. Yeah. Hare Krishna.
Thank you. Nutanji, anything you'd like to share?
Sorry, no, that was the main one. It's verse 6 in chapter 6 about the mind. But you know what you just explained. Bandhur atmatmanastasya. Yeah, that's my main bit from chapter 6.
Thank you so much. And yes, Naliben.
Yes, we always think, I mean, not I particularly, we mainly think of mind being our enemy, but we have to start, if we modify our thinking and feel that mind is our friend as well, I think that's a great turnaround to assess the situation or to manage the situations in your life.
Yeah, make the mind a friend. Yeah, absolutely right. That's the positive way of addressing the mind.
Yeah.
You address the mind like an adult, but it's a mischievous child. So sometimes you have to give it a good beating, you know.
If you have positive thoughts, then automatically be more positive. So
it's a fact. Sometimes, being in this human sort of frame of mind, you always look at something negatively. But then if you simply say, thank you, my dear Lord, just saying that, thank you, my dear Lord, even if you are thinking negatively, just saying, thank you, my dear Lord, suddenly life doesn't look so bad because you're becoming grateful. And that gratitude changes that negativity into, it destroys the negativity, but it also brings that positivity. So it's very powerful. So if we ever feeling negative, just thank the Lord. Thank you, my Lord. Just say it out loud as well. Thank you, my Lord. And with feeling and meaning, of course. And we'll see there's a change in our mood.
Hare Krishna, Prabhu. Haribol.
Hare Krishna, Siddharam.
Yes, while speaking with this Bhagavad Gita, Arjun says, "Oh Krishna, I am yours in your mind." If I am not wrong, So, what we learn from this verse is that whatever we do, whatever we eat, whatever action, whatever things we do, it is for Krishna, and we are above all devotee. Okay, and one thing Guru Maharaj used to say, live for Krishna and die for Krishna. It's been many times I've told this. Ram, you live for Krishna and die for Krishna. What I am saying is put it in your brain. Open your head and put it in your brain. This is like this Guru Maharaj taught us. Hare Krishna.
Very nice. I agree. Thank you.
Haribo.
Thank you, Karuna. I only asked her this morning, and you were quick, Karuna. Thank you very much. Well done. Bhagavad Gita ki jai.
Srimad Bhagavad Gita ki jai.
Jai. Well done, Karuna.
Karuna